Yes, indeed. It is once again time for another episode of the Kanika Sports Show, everybody. Your home for authentic and independent Chicago sports talk, San Diego Padres baseball talk, all things MLB, NFL, NBA, and, oh, by the way, a little bit of WWE every now and again as well. Plus, today, we are going to dip our toe into a little bit of WNBA, folks. Yes, we have to talk about this Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese story that is just making this whole league blow up like the 1980s NBA.
Nice.
Yes, indeed. And by the way, you probably just heard from my lovely co-host. She's the one. She is the only. Drum roll, please. Nika, everybody. Nika, the producer, is here with us on this Wednesday show. Welcome, Nika.
Well, hello, everybody. Hello to you, and hello to our new and returning listeners. And welcome to our midweek edition of our fancy show.
Yes, it is the Kanika Sports Show Fancy Edition for Wednesday, as Nika just said. No, we are going to be getting on the mics a lot more often because we just have a lot to say, I guess, about sports topics.
There's lots going on in the sports world in general, so we gotta keep up.
There is, yeah. And, we like to talk about these controversial topics and things going on in the news. But I think to kick off today's episode, we need to talk about a little bit of something we were talking about on our last recording, and that's Juan Soto, who is having a bit of a rough week, Nika.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he had a really rough weekend in the Bronx where he used to play. And then it did not get better for him on Monday morning. We were treated to an early edition of this from WFAN in New York Sports Radio. This is Boomer Esiason and Gio, his co-host on WFAN, and they are reacting to some of what they claim they heard on ESPN's Sunday night broadcast during the Subway Series finale on ESPN. Take it away, Nika.
Juan Soto just had a brutal 3 days. He could smile all he wants. He could take his helmet off and acknowledge the boos all he wants on Friday night. At the end of the day, it was a bad weekend for him. So now he and his family can get on the private jet and go up to Boston. That was
all
interesting.
right. Let's pause that really quick, Nika. That was a weird sentence that just got thrown in there at the end. He and his family can get on the private jet and go to Boston. That is false.
Claim it false. Second. Second
that is not something that is actually a part of Juan Soto's contract. He does not have a private jet. Neither does his family have a private jet to go and watch him play. Juan Soto travels with the team, as we're going to talk about in a second. But I just wanted to point that out because Boomer Esiason is a former player himself in the NFL, but he's still a former professional athlete and player, and I'm sure he wouldn't want these kinds of misleading statements made about himself or his family. So the fact that he's doing it to another fellow New York athlete, that just strikes me as a little bit off.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, he has more to say, and we'll have more to say about it. Let's continue.
Said that part of it yesterday. Did you hear
yes,
that?
I did, and I also heard Carl Ravitch talk about Juan Soto vehemently trying to back out of being mic'd up, that he was begging to get the microphone off of him.
Remember when the Yankees were saying, we're not going to give Juan Soto a suite because we don't give
All
our
right, let's pause it again. All right, before he gets into this, so there is more to this story that we're going to read about in a second, but just to fill people in, if you don't watch Sunday Night Baseball, every second inning, I think, or third inning, I don't remember exactly when, in the beginning of the game, they will usually mic up somebody for a half inning and talk to them while they're playing in the field. And they had planned to do that with Juan Soto, and he decided to back out before the game started. And apparently the ESPN people were none too pleased about this.
Well, I can see why. They didn't have a...
They didn't have their marquee on-field interview?
They didn't have a plan B in place.
Look, I'm not a fan of these on-field interviews to begin with because I would really like the multi-million-dollar professional athlete to be constantly focused on the actual game at hand and not what some person is whispering into their ear in the middle of the game. But nevertheless, this is apparently a thing that, like, if you back out of it, you're weak or you're not doing part of your job or something. I don't know.
So wait, being mic'd up is part of the baseball player job now?
I don't know if it is or not. I'm just saying, like, it feels like he's being made that he's not doing his job by not doing it. I would say, like, ESPN doesn't have a right to interview any player that doesn't want to be interviewed during the middle of a game if they don't want to be.
Imagine if that happens to your work. Somebody sucks a microphone when you have to do a brain surgery.
A lot of people like think this is fun or something for the players to do. I think it's probably anything but. You know, the last thing any of them wants to do is make a mistake while the entire world is watching and focused on them. Yeah. All right. Well, let's carry on here from our good friends at WFAN.
Of our player suites. Who knew that Juan Soto was getting a private jet on top of all of this to away
Doubling
games?
down.
The point being is that if Juan Soto is putting up huge numbers and Juan Soto's coming through,
nobody cares.
Nobody really cares about that. But then all of a sudden, when that doesn't happen, and then somebody else is coming for a contract extension, and the Mets treat that guy like crap compared to what that guy thinks that Juan Soto has, that's where the schism spot happens, right?
Yeah,
so,
I know.
I mean, I almost fell off my chair last night when I heard Ravitch say that because I knew that he got in the suite. I had no idea that he had gotten a private jet charter.
That was it.
That's amazing that he not only doubled down, he tripled down on this. Like, he brought up the suite. Now, if you don't know, apparently Juan Soto asked the Yankees if he could have a suite for his family for all of the home games.
You're talking those sky boxes.
A sky box for the Soto family, basically, for every home game, and the Yankees refused.
Really?
Yeah, that's the word on the street, is that Juan Soto was seeking this, and so I think that was a little jab there about the suite, you know, on top of this.
But that's a huge difference between a plane and a sky box.
It is, and it's like he's almost implying here that he's got the suite and the plane, and we've established that the plane is BS. Like, this isn't a true story. This is misinformation being spread far and wide on WFAN by a former professional athlete himself, Boomer Esiason. So this is just really about as bottom of the barrel as it gets for journalism in 2025.
No kidding.
If you ever wonder how misinformation spreads so quickly, well, here you go. Boomer. Boom. Boomer went boom.
Boomer goes boom.
He did. Boomer went boom, and you pointed it out. The one thing that he was right about was, like, no one would give a crap about any of this if Juan Soto had just gone out there and even went 3 for 10 instead of 1 for 10.
Yes.
But the end of the day, he did not. Everyone wants to talk about how he went 1 for 10.
It's East Coast media. They will pick and they will scrutinize about everything you do under a microscope.
Well, look, we talked about this already on Monday on our previous recording, and we posted an episode about Juan Soto specifically because he got outperformed by Cody Bellinger this past weekend. This was not unknown. What was, I guess, revelations or information to me was the plane thing, which turned out to be untrue. And I think when you're just looking at how much pressure there is already on this guy to play in New York, live up to the money, he's never going to. I don't know.
They will be poking holes in every single thing he does if he doesn't perform at the top notch that he can do.
It makes you wonder psychologically if more players should do what Ohtani did and defer as much money as possible, only because you can't see it.
Maybe
he only gets the $2 million every year, even though he's getting $70 million a year. He only touches $2 million of it. Yeah, he has other sponsorships and he has a lot more money. We're going to talk about Mr. Ohtani coming up in 1 second, but let's
Juan
keep
Soto,
it here on Juan Soto.
Juan Soto would never defer all his money.
No,
This
we
is different.
knew that, and he has Boris, and he was not. But
Totally different situation. Yes.
Well, luckily for Juan Soto, he does have some credible journalists still in his corner, and one of those was Jeff Passan from ESPN, our old good friend. We've talked about him here on our show before. He tweeted this out 5 hours after the WFAN tweet went out into the universe. He wrote, "To clear up what others have asserted, Juan Soto does not fly separately from his New York Mets teammates on a private jet. He flies on the team plane. There is no private jet provision in his contract for him or his family."
Okay.
So
Thanks for clarifying.
Jeff Passan clears that up. ESPN reporter. Kind of ironic that he was coming to the bat of ESPN, which is where this rumor, I guess, originated, according to Boomer Esiason. I still have yet to hear it. I know Nika has yet to hear it. I haven't heard the original broadcast where this claim was made.
We don't know.
Now, we do know that the claim about him skipping out on this on-field interview is true.
Yes.
And that's because an article went up on Monday morning from NJ Advanced Media by Bob Klapisch. And while that article is under a paywall, our good friends Yard Barker and Zach Wasink decided to summarize that article for us, which is not behind a paywall, so we can still read some of the juicy nuggets from that article. And so we've decided to screen capture that and share that with you here. Nika, do you have the headline up?
Mm-hmm.
It says, Monday morning, why Mets are reportedly concerned, quote, about Juan Soto after Yankees series. And we're going to get into it here. Here's the first page. And as you can see, this was posted actually on, I think this was first posted on Monday morning, but it was updated Tuesday it was updated.
Okay.
All right, it says New York Mets outfielder Juan Soto generating more boos than RBI, 0, goose egg, during a 3-game series at the New York Yankees did little to quiet chatter about how he is and or isn't fitting in with the Mets this spring. For an article published on Monday, Bob Klapisch of NJ Advanced Media revealed that sports talk radio personalities and fans aren't the only people who have noticed that Soto hasn't looked like the happiest of generational talents over his first 2 months of his Mets tenure. All right, if we go on here, it says, quote, "I'm told they're concerned about Soto's lack of enthusiasm for his new team," Klapisch said about what he referred to as, quote, "the Mets' hierarchy." Klapisch also pointed out that, quote, "the only time Soto seemed happy this weekend was while he interacted with Yankees captain Aaron Judge, second baseman Jazz Chisholm Jr., and manager Aaron Boone in the Bronx." All right, I'm going to stop here for 1 second and just go over a couple things that we just read. But the biggest thing is that, Juan Soto's body language sometimes can leave a little bit to be desired. Sure. And so, and I've seen him, interact with the media in post games and stuff, and he doesn't come across as like, I want to be here at all. He comes across as the opposite.
He wants to get out as fast as he can.
Yeah, he doesn't want to say anything and doesn't want to talk to the media. I don't think he likes that part of the job at all.
Not everybody
but it's a
does.
big part of it. And when you want $750 million plus on top of it, you're gonna better expect to be have a microphone shoved in your face pretty much whenever anyone can.
That's true.
So let's just get that out of the way. But as you can see here, the Mets' hierarchy is in quotes, and that's who the source is for Bob Klapisch here in his article, which is being summarized again by Zach Wasink. So sorry for all the layers of tape here, but we're skirting around the paywall from NJ Advanced Media. Mm-hmm. The Mets hierarchy is noticing, according to him, what everyone else is noticing, that he's not happy. So
okay,
he is apparently happy, though, to be spending time with his old Yankee teammates.
Well, okay. based on one incident.
We don't really see him interacting with his Mets teammates at
That's
all.
true.
Like, I mean, we do, but we don't
Not
get
the
to see a
same.
majority of it, right? Like,
Right.
he flies the plane with them, as has been established by Jeff Passan. He does not travel separately with his family, so they hang out. You know, and I can't just picture Juan Soto on the team plane sitting in a corner by himself, being like mopey and being like, "I don't want to talk to you guys. I miss Aaron Judge." I don't think that's what's happening here, and
No.
yet that's exactly how they make it seem like what's going on.
This isn't high school. Come on.
All right, the article goes on. Before the Mets dropped 2 out of 3 games to the Yankees, Will Salmon of The Athletic insisted that Soto's teammates, quote, think he loves it here, and said that the slugger has simply been disappointed about the fact that he hasn't consistently performed, quote, at an elite level since he signed a 15-year, $765 million contract that could exceed $800 million total to join the Amazins this past off-season. And boy, oh boy, I love when journalism just goes and doubles down on words like elite. Like that's better than just being elite. What a time to be alive. I think that there's a lot being made about nothing here, and this was just somebody kind of taking advantage of the situation over the weekend, and the fact that it was in the old stomping grounds and there was old friends, and it was like, I'm gonna just put these things that are totally unrelated together and make them into a story.
Yeah.
All right. Against the Yankees, Soto went 1 for 10 with 4 walks. Per Manny Gomez of NJ Advanced Media for NJ.com, Soto failed to reach base safely across his final 6 plate appearances of the series. Salmon mentioned that Soto is currently in the middle of a slump that involves going 1 for 20 with runners in scoring position. And yeah, we've seen this kind of early season slump with Juan Soto before, back in 2023 with the Padres. Go look it up. We documented it here on this podcast. And why is there no criticism being directed at Mets management for the slow start and what they've been working with on Juan Soto and getting his average back up?
I don't know, but it's a very good question.
We saw no adjustments made during the April of 2023, and I don't know if they all didn't Juan Soto have his own hitting coach or something, or
I
I
don't
don't remember the
remember.
details, but
players like Soto like to be coached. They
Yeah.
do need to be coached
And
You can't-
challenged.
and challenged. Absolutely, they cannot just be left to their own devices and as magically everything's gonna work out for them.
all right. Well, if you want to continue the article here, it said here that assuming Klappich is correct, it seems not everybody with sorry. Gosh, went one slide too far, everybody. It appears such numbers aren't the only reason the Mets are allegedly worried about Soto ahead of Memorial Day. Quote, he agreed to be mic'd up by ESPN in the second inning, but changed his mind minutes before the game, Klappich added about how Soto handled a Sunday Night Baseball broadcast request. Soto told Mets officials he was tired of answering questions about Aaron Judge, sick of explaining why he chose the Mets. The fact that Soto blew off the network was only the first sign of his darkening state of mind. The second was Soto's conduct after the Mets' 8-2 loss. Not only was he held hitless, the signature swag had vanished. So no Soto shuffle, I guess, this weekend in the Bronx. No swagger from the
Wait.
world's most expensive player.
He didn't have anything to swag about.
Yeah, I this is again like when you lose and when you're struggling, like
Yeah.
I don't expect you to, be out there smiling and happy about
flashy
that.
and all that, right.
That might send an even worse message to some people
Imagine
in New York
that.
City.
Imagine if that happened and Soto was all flashy about it.
Yeah,
The
why is
media
he
would go
not in the
nuts.
batting cage at 4 a.m?
Oh goodness.
And again, the whole mic'd up thing, I think, is just a bit of a ridiculous part that's been added into sports that we don't need as well. And so the fact that they're making a big deal about something that we really don't need is kind of humorous to me.
Yes.
All right. It goes on to say, Clappish also said that Soto avoided reporters after Sunday's defeat and has, quote, put on a few pounds around the middle, end quote. That's not the same stand-up guy who was always at his locker last season, Clappish continued. Even after being skewered on Friday, Soto spoke of the obligation to, quote, take it like a man. 2 days later, he was running for the exit. Those are some scathing words right there, Nika, from Bob Clappish about Juan Soto. And I'm really shocked that he even wrote, put on a few pounds around the middle. It's like, it's kind of a little bit of like, oh, you have all this money now. I guess you're letting yourself go. It kind of rubs a little bit like that.
It does. I wonder if they're going to direct the same questions to other players that don't make that much money. The Phillies come to mind with the jab Ozempic.
That's so true. Maybe Juan should look into Ozempic unless he wants to, get suspended. We maybe double check the ingredients, Juan, before you take. No, just kidding. I really, honestly haven't noticed Soto looking any different.
Me neither.
And we notice that stuff.
We do.
As someone that did drop some weight, I tend to look at that stuff a little bit, and just out of curiosity more than anything, like, oh, which player could benefit from going on a ketogenic diet like I did?
Or lose a few pounds around the middle.
Yeah, but Juan Soto's not the guy that jumps out to me with that. So, I'll look again, but I haven't seen it like that. Like we saw the fake Twitter pictures of like when people were making him look kind of like a balloon a little bit. And while it is a little bit humorous, I haven't seen it in reality. All right, this article is just about done here. It says, over his first 46 games with the Mets, Soto slashed 246, 379, and 443 with an 822 OPS, 8 home runs, and 20 RBI. Needless to say, he thus far hasn't matched the value of his massive contract with his play. And all I'm just going to say here is that, we saw this with Soto in 2023 with the Padres. We just talked about it. He had a horrible April and came on and had a pretty normal season in the end. So I don't think there's anything too much different to read into this. I totally expect Soto's numbers to go up from here. I don't think he's going to stay at this level for the entire season.
I think this is just being impatient. The journalist and the fandom is just impatient.
Yeah, everybody wants it to be instantaneous gratification. And, baseball is a roller coaster ride, and it doesn't start great for everybody all the time. It doesn't mean it won't end great. It doesn't.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with it. And if Soto's career numbers are to be believed, it is going to get better for him. All right. It says, per MLB insider Andy Martino of SNY, outfielder and designated hitter Starling Marte, quote, has proven invaluable during Soto's transition from the business-like Yankees to the vibey Mets. The two have known one another since Soto made his way through the minor league system, and Martino explained that, quote, folks in the Mets organization believe that Soto has made significant progress settling in, smiling more of late, and getting closer to the theatrical flow that has long made him the most exciting hitter in baseball. I think people should not be focused on these things and just let the man be. Like, I don't know. This is bordering on character assassination a little bit here. It's like, you took all this money, smile. Like, you...
Yeah, you have these... You have to check certain boxes because you have that much money now.
Let's let it get there, like let's let him get through at least to the All-Star break before we start, questioning things a little bit. Again, because this is the media that pushed for him to become the most expensive player of all time and wanted this bidding war to be going over him so that it created juicy, sensationalist headlines for them. It seems a little bit hypocritical to stick the knife in the back this quickly into a season. Nevertheless, it says, assuming Clappish is correct, It seems not everybody within the Mets is convinced Soto isn't having some regrets about leaving the Bronx Bombers for the Mets after he helped the Yankees make a trip to the 2024 World Series. So that is the first article that went up on Monday. And again, it was updated on Tuesday, but I thought it was interesting for a couple notes. One is that apparently there's unnamed sources inside of the Mets in the, what was it called? The hierarchy. So that could be a lot of places on the food chain, right, Nika?
Yes, absolutely.
Someone in the hierarchy is speaking off the record to Bob Clappish about what they perceive to be body language issues with Juan Soto, I guess, when it comes to his happiness factor. And
Do they ask him, which smiley face are you feeling today?
yeah, again, this is like, I would never, as an agent, encourage my clients to always seek the most money. You know, like I would definitely not want them to undervalue themselves or anything of that nature. But if you were talking about a difference of 15 million and whether or not I thought you should hit behind Aaron Judge or in front of Aaron Judge for the rest of the rest of his career, or, you know, Francisco Lindor and maybe Pete Alonso, I would have taken door number one and taken Aaron Judge. And so I can certainly understand Juan Soto having a little bit of buyer's remorse at this time, but at the same time, if I'm working in the Mets organization, I'm probably really pissed off about that.
Of course.
Well, this trickled in because Juan Soto went 1 for 4 on Monday night, and let's hear about it. It's still early. Well, let's read the headline first. Do you have the headline
Yes,
up? This is the second article. This was also posted on Tuesday. But it was not updated Tuesday. It says, Mets Carlos Mendoza breaks silence after disagreement with Juan Soto. What's this disagreement about, Nika?
I don't know.
All right. This was written by Athlon Sports by Josh Valdez. And I clipped it again from Yard Barker, sorry.
Barker. Okay.
All right. It says here, it's still early, but Juan Soto's slow start with the New York Mets is one of baseball's hottest topics. Yes, it is. This is our second video this week about it, Nika.
Mm-hmm.
The 26-year-old who signed a record-breaking 15-year, $765 million contract with the club this past offseason is slashing 246, 376, 439 with 8 homers and 20 RBI over 47 games thus far. Soto hasn't had a multi-hit game or hit a home run since May 9th, when he went 2 for 4 with a home run, 2 RBI, a walk, and a run scored in New York's 7-2 win over the Chicago Cubs. Additionally, the 5-time Silver Slugger has yet to notch a 3-hit game this year. All right, a little bit of a recap, I guess, about Juan Soto's slow start. Okay, this is where we get into the biggest news since the Yankees series ended. It says there was a disagreement between Soto and Mets manager Carlos Mendoza through the media after New York's loss to the Boston Red Sox on Monday. After not running hard for the second straight game, Soto's lack of hustle was noted by his manager. Quote, "We'll talk to him about it," Mendoza said. "In this ballpark, with that wall right there, you got to get out of the box. We'll discuss that." Pretty interesting answer here by Carlos Mendoza, because he made it sound Fenway specific when the night before he wasn't hustling at Yankee Stadium. And we talked about that a little bit, but you know, I think the Yankee Stadium not hustle was a bit of a good defensive play. And in the heat of the moment, Juan Soto made a bad decision not to hustle out of the box on that one. And players are going to do this throughout the course of a season because, you know,
it's a judgment call.
It's 162 games. Yes, we as fans, we want to see players that are playing a game and being paid millions of dollars to do so. We want to see them hustling every single time out of the box. But in reality, these players are looking at this as a marathon and not necessarily a sprint all the time, including out of the batter's box. This is a tricky one for sure. So now where it gets even trickier is because Soto, disagreeing, told reporters, quote, "I think I've been hustling pretty hard. If you see it today, you could tell." So he is disagreeing with his manager, even though they're not in the same room with each other. They were asked the questions at separate times. I love how they word this sometimes as a disagreement, even though, like, when you think of people having a disagreement, it's like they're having words with each other, right?
In the same room.
But they're not in this instance. And so the media really
pushes the drama,
bolstering up those headlines.
Yeah.
All right, it says, following this public difference in opinions, Mendoza spoke on his star outfielder with reporters on Tuesday. So the following afternoon before Game 2, quote, "A lot of times frustrations are going to get the best of them, especially a guy like that. He's so talented and had so much success early in his career." He added, quote, "Right now he feels like maybe he can do a little bit more for the team, and that's part of it. At the same time, a guy like him, he wants to be challenged. He wants to be coached, and that's what makes him special." And that's the end of that article, Nika. And that's kind of where we got to with this story. Juan Soto went 1 for 3 last night and had a walk. The Mets lost. That was their 4th loss in the last 5 games against the Yankees and now the Red Sox. And that's kind of where this story has ended up. Oh, there is one more little slide. It says, Soto will have an opportunity to get back on track when the Mets play Game 2 of their 3-game set against the Red Sox on Tuesday night at Fenway Park in Boston. And as I just told you, he did not necessarily.
It's still East Coast. They're still going to scrutinize every single thing you do. Boston, 100%. New York, it doesn't really matter. But I just think you just let Juan Soto be Juan Soto, and he will figure it out.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to be overly alarmed about. No. And I think there's a lot of overreacting going on here. First of all, I could care less if he ever gets on the mic in the middle of a game and talks to the, ESPN Sunday night baseball crew like it's his job. I don't think that's his job. I think his job is to go out and hit the baseball for the Mets because they didn't pay him that much money for his fielding skills or his base running skills.
No, just hitting mostly.
I think the hustling thing is always going to eat you alive in a major media market like New York or Chicago. And I guess I feel like his manager should jump the gun a little bit Monday night and should have just defended him more. And I think he came out Tuesday and was a little bit more defensive for Juan Soto and did him a little bit better of a job. But look, this is not going anywhere. This is a 15-year contract. Yep. And I guess I'm even surprised at how short the honeymoon has lasted with the media, especially because, in February, every one of these knuckleheads would have been like cheering out of their pants if their team signed Juan Soto. If the Mets, maybe February is a bad time because he was already signed.
Yes.
But, in November when free agency was open and everyone was jockeying for position and Soto was interviewing with teams, like all of these broadcasters, everybody that's writing about this would have been jumping for joy over Juan Soto getting signed by the Mets. And so to now take this attitude less than 8 weeks into the start of it all, it seems a little bit premature.
I think they didn't do their homework enough. They should have listened to our podcast, watched the Soto performance on the Padres, and draw conclusions from that.
I mean, yeah, I think Soto had his best season when he played hitting in front of Aaron Judge. And
he did.
Ultimately, I think he got bad advice from his agent and from the people around him about, you're talking about what, supposedly $5 million less they offered him, $760, and I know it was another year, but I don't get, and supposedly now the Mets didn't offer the most money. That's coming out. So
really?
It just makes me wonder, like, what was the actual plan here, or what was talked about behind closed doors? Because,
or what was happening with the Yankees that he decided not to go ahead and sign with them. Like, was there some kind of friction internal?
Doesn't seem like it over the weekend, does it?
It doesn't. But they no, we don't know.
We don't. Absolutely not. I mean,
it could be all window dressing at this point.
It could be.
Just because Aaron Judge and Chisholms and Soto are friends doesn't mean internally there's some friction.
Well, I want to ask you right now, do you think that Juan Soto is going to be even in the MVP conversation this year?
Ooh, maybe, if he turns it around. He's got time.
It's early, but I mean, I think it's one of those things where it becomes a PR campaign almost right from the beginning of the season. And when you already have this crowded race, you have Ohtani. You know, you even have like guys like Kyle Schwarber making a case. You have Kyle Tucker, Pete Crow Armstrong, Fernando Tatis Jr., Corbin Carroll. Like, where do you fit in? You got to leapfrog almost.
You got to show something special to leapfrog all these other players.
You do.
And Juan Soto hasn't shown that this season. Not yet.
Not yet. And, you know, the Mets are feeling it.
Of course.
They are,
and they want instant gratification. I don't blame them.
Nobody blames them.
Nobody blames them. We live in the world of instant gratification.
Nobody blames them. But, you know, they're falling. I mean, 29-20. They were right there with the Padres. And now they're just 9 games over 500. So not 10 anymore, just like the Padres have been doing. And yeah, we're going to see where it goes.
We'll have to see. Yeah.
I don't know exactly where to leave this conversation, I guess, now, but I just look at the Soto situation as like we talked about a lot of this in the past, and we were kind of, I don't know. I think we're ready to be done with Juan Soto.
I think so. If there's an update, we can always bring something as an update. As of right now, the story is just that.
It's drama at its highest level for the media, and there's really nothing that's being impacted on the field right now.
Right.
Except for the base running and the hustling, I guess. But like I said, I think that's a big whole ado about nothing.
Yes.
And again, once he starts hitting the ball, this will all go away. You saw how Devers started the season.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He was totally distracted by the position change and struggling, and he turned it around, and he's having a great time now with the green monster mask and everything. So, all right. Well, we're going to get off of Juan Soto for a minute and get on to Shohei Ohtani, because this story came across my feed yesterday as well. Actually, this says the 19th, but it says 9:30 p.m. on it, and it's from the New York Post Sports on Twitter, and it says, lead prosecutor of Shohei Ohtani baseball betting investigation resigns. And we click on the article here, and it says it was published May 20th at 12:27 a.m. Eastern. So I'm not sure how the tweet went out at 9:30 p.m. and then the article was published 3 hours later, but also you'll notice in the corner here it says MLB exclusive on the headline. Lead prosecutor of Shohei Ohtani baseball betting investigation resigns, by Josh Kosman. This is an exclusive in the New York Post. And I got the first sentence there on the bottom, but I think it's on the next slide as well. So let's just flip to it and start reading this article, Nika, shall we?
Go for it.
All right. It says the government's ace prosecutor investigating Shohei Ohtani and betting on baseball has quietly left the mound, the Post confirmed. That might help Ohtani, former Los Angeles player. Let me start that again. This might help Ohtani, former Los Angeles Angels player and Ohtani teammate David Fletcher, and former Los Angeles Dodger Yasiel Puig sleep a little easier, a source close to the situation said. That is not a quote, and this writer needs to figure out an easier way to communicate that information, because
no kidding.
All I needed to know was that Ohtani, David Fletcher, and Yasiel Puig are the source of this investigation. They were still being investigated because, well, we're going to find out. Quote, "It's never good for the prosecution when the lead prosecutor leaves the government," the source said. "You can only hope this will remain a priority. Resorts World 2 is awaiting a possible Department of Justice fine for letting a known sports bookmaker gamble millions at its casino, and it too is likely relieved," the source said. So, according to this anonymous source, that seems to be the theme of the day.
Yeah.
We got one in the Mets, and now we got one from Major League Baseball or somebody with authority to comment on this story to Josh Kosman from the New York Post. But yeah, basically, because this guy resigned, that means that there's going to be no more charges brought forth, according to what you're reading.
I guess it's just timing is really weird, but okay.
All right. Well, then we get a picture here of our good friend Ippei Mizuhara. Ippei, whatever his name is. Ippei.
You pay. We all
He
pay.
didn't pay Ohtani back, that's for sure. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jeff Mitchell led the investigation into Ohtani's interpreter Ippei Mizuhara and explored whether Ohtani himself bet on baseball games. He resigned from his office May 16th and will get paid through September. Well, that's nice. Sources said, and the Central District of California's press office confirmed. So this happened. This
No kidding.
is this resignation is real, and let's find out what it means, Nika, as we continue. It says, Mitchell led the prosecution of Ohtani's interpreter. U.S. District Judge John Holcomb, I don't know how you say that, on February 6th, sentenced Mizuhara to 57 months in prison for illegally and without authorization transferring nearly $17 million from the bank account of Ohtani to pay off his own substantial gambling debts incurred with an illegal bookmaking operation and for signing a false tax return, according to a news release. But Mizuhara's date to surrender was pushed back by several months until June 16th, leading to speculation he might be cooperating with federal authorities. Wow, Nika, this was news to me. You know, last year, Major League Baseball made a big proclamation shortly after this whole scandal blew up in Japan that Ohtani was innocent.
Yes.
And that he was cleared of any wrongdoing. Yet, it goes kind of unnoticed then that there's actually still an investigation going on with our own U.S. government into this whole thing and how it happened. And this investigation is what led to the prosecution of Ippei Mizuhara, but that doesn't mean that the investigation was over.
Well, the way they made it seem when this was happening, it was clearly said that Ohtani's innocent. There's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
That's what was said. And now, well, I guess the investigation continued.
Well, and that's what's misleading about all of this is it's like I feel like whenever you have two independent bodies like Major League Baseball and the United States government that are conducting their own separate investigations, they can kind of say whatever they want about it. So I guess the thing that I didn't know was that and it's not talked about a lot in the news, is that Mizuhara's date to surrender was being pushed back and pushed back and pushed back because of what was said, leading to speculation he might be cooperating, i.e. what? Spilling the beans on what was really happening here? You know, I always go back to the beginning of this whole situation and how the story broke, and it's just so weird and so bizarre. You have to go back and almost read like the play-by-play documents. There's timeline documents that came out after this explaining how weird it was, and it seems like a lot of that gets kind of just tossed under the carpet now, and we don't really remember and talk about that oddity where the story came out and then the story got changed and then it changed again, and Ohtani's innocent, we swear, and it just,
we just don't know really what happened.
and now Pete Rose is back in baseball. No, I'm just kidding.
Throw that in there.
They're not connected, I promise. That was a joke, but yeah, I always think back to that original time period when the Padres and Dodgers were playing in Seoul, Korea. And we see them in the dugout together laughing and smiling, supposedly after all of this was known.
Yeah. It has a totally different meaning when you look at that and then you know what happened later.
It does. I still go back to that image of them in the dugout smiling together. The article goes on, quote, "This probably makes it more likely this is all done," the source said. Quote, "and is good news for Ohtani and any of the other names that never got charged." So he's talking about Puig and Fletcher. Was that his name? David Fletcher, yeah. He's talking about Yasiel Puig and David Fletcher. MLB investigated Ohtani and concluded in June 2024 that he was a victim of fraud. So that's what we were just talking about here. MLB clearing Ohtani as early as June. This is almost a year later that this prosecutor is resigning. Fletcher, a close Ohtani friend and Angels teammate, reportedly bet on sports with Mizuhara's illegal bookie Matthew Boyer, but not baseball, and was never charged with a crime. Puig is presently fighting an obstruction of justice charge related to the sports betting investigation. His lawyer did not return calls by press time. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Central California declined to comment on the case. So this was kind of out of nowhere, Nika. You know, like we saw Ipe get sentenced a couple months ago and kind of thought that was going to be the end of this. And now we've learned that it was actually ongoing, continuing. There was a whole investigation that is, you know, I read some comments about this, and it sounds like whenever a prosecutor resigns in a case like this, it means they got nothing else to do. They don't see like a need for their work to continue.
So they basically got everything that they need to get, and the case can proceed.
Yeah, there's going to be no more charges brought forth by the government against these three athletes that were being investigated, along with everyone else that was involved with the illegal bookmaking part of this.
I mean, it makes sense, but it was just odd to hear that he was sentenced and it was delayed and delayed. So was he spilling the beans then?
Yeah, I think, you know, the bookie Matthew Boyer here is a central figure in all of this because
it was through
Fletcher,
him.
I find it odd that Fletcher and Ohtani are called close friends in this article, and so what? The close friend had no idea that you were doing any gambling with an illegal bookmaker. Like,
the close friend speaks Japanese too, or does he need a translator? Because that could be the connecting tissue, if you will.
I don't think a person named David Fletcher needs an interpreter.
No, but Ohtani does, and he has. Was it Ipe living with Ohtani at one point?
They were living together, yeah, the whole time. Like I think he was like his admin assistant.
Right, he was taking care of everything for him. So the close friend thing might be just close friend to him because of his association to Ipe.
Well, I guess according to the article, it sounds like Yasiel Puig is our last hope for talking because he's still the one that is fighting an obstruction of justice charge related to this.
Okay.
And so maybe he'll have something interesting to offer and say.
I know he hasn't been playing Major League Baseball in the States.
Not for a while, so he might need another moment of fame here.
Maybe. All right.
Well, this was certainly an interesting wrinkle that was added to this story, and we will be watching and waiting with interest to see if there's anything more that ever comes of this, or is this the end? You know, it sounds like this is the end.
It's enough. You know, I see still online people debating whether Ohtani was part of the gambling thing or not. Just let it be.
Well,
he was cleared. You know,
we're never gonna know.
We will not
for sure. But I think it's gonna be one of those things. It's like who killed JFK? Like it's gonna 60 years from now, we're gonna be talking and debating like, did Ohtani gamble
in the baseball world?
And
yes.
Did he get off?
In the baseball world, we will definitely keep the tabs on it for years to come.
It's fascinating too because of is this the Michael Jordan playbook? You know, there are people that think Jordan was suspended from the NBA when he resigned in 1993, only to come back in 1995 and the whole "I'm Back" tour. And they didn't want the greatest to ever have played the game to have that accusation leveled against them even. And
the gambling is so normalized nowadays. It's crazy to think how it used to be and how it is nowadays. It's advertised on every single baseball game, yet you cannot bet on baseball.
And I wonder what they thought would happen when the most competitive people in the world got their hands on millions of dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
And couldn't spend it all.
I know what happened. They wanted a piece of it. The casinos.
The casinos, yeah. Well, because their house always wins.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Ohtani has won this battle for now. He's in the clear, and it doesn't appear like he's being investigated at all anymore.
That's good. Probably
so,
peace of mind.
This can probably just all go into the ethers. If anyone ever sees Ippei Mizuhara again, I will be shocked.
I think he's back in Japan.
Well,
maybe. I don't know.
I don't know if he's allowed to be. So.
We don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to turn our attentions now, Nika, to a little bit of WNBA basketball. Yes, you heard me correctly. We are going to talk about women's hoops for the first time ever on the Kanika Sports Show because Saturday, the whole sports world got overtaken by this big Caitlin Clark flagrant foul on Angel Reese in the middle of the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever game. I got that all right, by the way.
Ooh.
So I'm learning my WNBA team names and player names and everything. I got to be honest, before we even get this whole segment started, a couple things. I've never watched WNBA in my life. I think I've seen highlights, of course, but I couldn't even list off 5 players that have played in the WNBA before this. So
fair enough.
Apologies. It's not an insult. It's just it was not my thing.
Fair enough.
College sports. I don't do it. Nika doesn't do it. We don't find that it offers us anything that we need here.
Well, we have so much other sports that we try to keep up. We don't have time, and there's just 2 of us. Come on.
100%. So, this is one of those things where I was just
we just needed to
taken up in the
story,
moment because as much as I don't watch this, I do know basketball. I do know Caitlin Clark. I do know that she is like the savior of basketball for the WNBA right now. And I also know a little bit about Angel Reese, though not as much. I know that she played for LSU, and I know that these 2 ladies have played each other in championship game in the NCAA.
So they have a history together.
They have a history together.
Okay.
Before I get started, this whole situation totally reminds me of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. I mean, if you can't see the similarities, Caitlin Clark here is in her 2nd season in the league. Angel Reese, they played in the 2022 or 2023 championship game. So she couldn't have been in the league too much longer than Caitlin Clark has.
So maybe a year.
Right. So she's in about her 3rd year. So if you know anything about Bird and Magic, they came out together and they played in the NCAA championship game together, just like these 2 did.
I see the similarities then.
So,
okay.
And the only thing that's really different is like the cities that they play in. Boston and LA were so far away, but Indiana and Chicago are kind of right next to each other. So there's already a little bit of a built-in rivalry just based on geographical location. So there's history there with these girls, and there's a rivalry, and now they're in the professional league, and there's talks that maybe Angel Reese is jealous because Caitlin Clark is looked at as the next up and coming thing, and she's not maybe included in that conversation as much. Anyways, all of a sudden we had this play start circling around social media. Let's take a listen. I faded out the audio a little bit partway through because we don't need it to talk about it, but it is there at the beginning. So whenever you're ready, Nika.
All right. And it's coming right up.
A 3. And look out, Caitlin Clark pushes Angel Reese, and Angel Reese Gets right up into Caitlin Clark. Afterwards has something to say as Clark walks away.
Okay, you can pause it. So a couple things I wanted to point out here was this was a hard foul, and I'm a big fan of that. Mm-hmm. You know, like I'm not a fan of letting people have easy baskets. So when I first saw this, I was like, oh, this is a good hard foul in any basketball game, men's or women's. Like it shouldn't be considered out of bounds necessarily.
Okay, it's part of the game.
I was kind of surprised that this was changed, because if you let the video roll, you'll see they call Caitlin Clark for a flagrant foul after they review this play.
Okay, let's see.
But the bigger thing here is Angel Reese's reaction. She got hot. You know, she was lifting her jersey shirt up a little bit, kind of like, what is going on? Like, is she getting ready to fight? You know, like whenever I see someone trying to take their clothes off and they're coming at somebody, like I think they're about to start a fight with somebody. And so she looked like she was getting ready to start a fight here. And like I said, my phone blew up over this incident on Saturday night, and it's basically been talked about ever since. Every day. It's been a big ongoing story. And yeah, the parallels are really, really fascinating to Magic and Larry Bird here. You know, like it almost seems orchestrated. It almost seems like it was manufactured a little bit.
Well, I don't think you can manufacture a foul like this, but you can manufacture what comes before the game. You can ump it up.
Yeah,
the rivalry.
Well, which leads me to this. If you flip to the next slide, this was posted in The Athletic. It's unlocked. It's part of the New York Times. So take advantage of that whenever you get a free article from the New York Times, everybody. The paper of record is not free. But this article says that in the headline, you can see Fever versus Sky draws 2.7 million viewers, most viewed WNBA regular season game in 25 years.
Holy shit.
That is eye-opening, to say the least. A league that has generally been considered a laughingstock for most of my lifetime. And the Bill Burr joke is hilarious about the WNBA, where he basically blames women for not supporting the league that they begged into existence. Those are his words, not mine, by the way. But I think we've also seen a lot of WNBA stuff in the news where they feel like they're not paid fairly because they don't make as much as the men do. And one of the reasons why they don't is because their league doesn't make as much money. It loses money, in fact. It has been. But it seems like the corner is turning. And whenever you get somebody like me
turning on,
wondering like, hey, when do these two play each other again? And we'll talk about that in a minute. But you might be turning a corner when it comes to getting people to watch your product.
But do you think they have to keep up with this kind of a shenanigans just to get people watching, if that's the case?
Well, I don't. I think this is just kind of like a lucky coincidence that we've gotten to see this NCAA championship sort of rivalry kind of now spiral into their professional careers, much like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. All right. So at the bottom of this, the opening paragraph says, there is one guarantee when Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese meet on a basketball court. People will watch.
Hello.
Yep. Guilty. The Indiana Fever's 93-58 win over the Chicago Sky last Saturday drew 2.7 million viewers on ABC. That set a record for the most viewed WNBA regular season game across ESPN networks and is believed to be the most viewed WNBA regular season game in 25 years since the era when NBC aired the WNBA. The game peaked at 3.1 million viewers. Saturday's contest continued the trend from last year when the WNBA had 22 regular season games that averaged more than 1 million viewers, the first time since 2008 that a WNBA game topped 1 million viewers. And as you can see here on this slide, it says Caitlin Clark's triple-double moves her into a tie for third most in WNBA history. I mean, Nika, I'm not a rocket scientist, but when you got a second-year player already with the third most triple-doubles in your league all time, I think, A, she's probably pretty good, and B, I can understand maybe why people might want to tune in and watch her.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, now this number got me. It says, since 12.3 million people watched LSU defeat Iowa in the 2023 National Championship game, viewers have flocked to watch Reese and Clark go head-to-head. At the time, the title game set a record for the most watched women's college basketball game in history. Last June, the Fever and Sky drew 2.25 million viewers for a CBS game, which at the time marked the WNBA's most watched game in 23 years. A Friday night game last September on Ion between the two teams averaged 1.6 million viewers. The earlier game Saturday between the defending champion New York Liberty and Las Vegas Aces averaged 1.3 million viewers on ABC, so add another 1 million plus game to the WNBA ledger. And yeah, Nika, it does sound like since both of these ladies entered the league, the needle has started moving. But I want to point out that Caitlin Clark played in college basketball last year. And then, like, as soon as the season ended and she graduated, she became a professional basketball player and started playing with the Fever. Like, there was literally
period.
like no break, like no off season for her last year. She literally like went from playing college basketball to immediately starting her professional career.
Is that normal?
I think it is in WNBA because
Oh,
of
okay.
when their season starts.
I see.
It's starting here, as you can see, at the end of May. Like, you know, colleges graduate typically like around the beginning of May. So if you're graduated and done and you got nothing to do, might as well go work.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah,
in a
it
way.
is. It is kind of nice, and they have a lot less of a waiting period than
Yeah.
like NFL draft picks who are now waiting months before they will actually get to taste the field. And those NBA draft picks, they're gonna not even get drafted until June, and they're not gonna touch the court until November. So I thought that was interesting and worth pointing out. And so at the end of the article here, it just says the CBS broadcast network will be the beneficiary of the attention of this rivalry. The network will air 2 primetime matchups between the teams, the first on June 7th and the second on August 9th, both Saturdays. It has a legit shot at averaging 3 million viewers, which would be a massive number for the league. So, yeah, Caitlin Clark and
Angel Reese.
Angel Reese, thank you. Sorry. Bringing back the numbers here, I couldn't help when I was thinking about these two and comparing them to Magic and Bird. Someone else came along a little later after Magic and Bird, didn't they? And his name was Michael Jordan. Yeah, and he kind of became bigger than both of those players. And I'm just wondering, this when I watch Caitlin Clark play, she reminds me so much of Larry Bird. She can shoot. She can pass really well. And she's kind of like mean out there a little bit.
She's got an attitude.
She's got a little bit of that
And
Larry
that's good.
Bird
You
attitude.
need
I
that.
like it. I love it. I'm not mad about it.
It's a physical game. You got to be able to have some attitude.
Yeah, it's about time the women brought this into
Yeah.
their league. You know, I think they've been waiting for this kind of. We need drama to be able to get connected into it, right?
Natural drama, not manufactured drama by the media.
Right,
That's
and-
two
and-
different things.
And when you watch this play and everything go down, I think it just shows you that this is a real rivalry. That it doesn't need anything extra added onto the Flames. You know,
Yeah.
This is a basketball rivalry.
And keep it on the field. Keep it on the basketball field.
Yeah, definitely.
Court, not field, court.
Well, the field of battle, whatever. You know,
Whatever.
it's the court. Yes, and that it goes for all sports.
Yeah.
You know, like I want the passion and the fire to be a part of these rivalries and these matchups. And
We see in baseball all the time. The bench is cleared out because something happened.
we just had rivalry weekend, and it was
It's
like
exactly.
a big marketing thing, and we didn't see anything as heated as this in
No.
any of those games. I wish we would have. You know.
We saw some popes.
the bottom line is I think we should be clamoring for more of these types of rivalries and heated rivalries in sports. Like, this is what made the NBA so great in the 90s was
That's
the
what
Bulls
makes the
Pistons,
sports.
the
Yes.
Celtics Lakers, the
Absolutely.
Knicks and Bulls. Like, these were the matchups that made us tune in on every Sunday morning on the NBA on NBC.
This is the reason since gladiators, since Roman times, people enjoyed, I don't want to call it violence, but physical interactions between two groups.
Physical competition.
Competition,
Yeah, for
exactly.
sure.
Thank you. And this is not different. They just get paid right now a lot of money and nobody dies.
Yeah, that does seem how it goes down a little bit.
Exactly. But it's enjoyable by the people. We have fans. People want to see this.
Yeah.
When you strip it without it, nobody watches it.
It's funny that you say that because I want to see this. I actually want to watch their next game against each other. And if you flip to the next slide, you can see the next time these two teams will meet, as we just said, was June 7th. Now, it says this is a Commissioner's Cup game presented by Coinbase. I'm not totally sure what the Commissioner's Cup is, but I'm going to do some research and I'm going to find out what it is before we talk about WNBA basketball again. And
Well, we might have to report it back now.
we definitely do.
promoted
We're going to watch this game for sure on Saturday, June 7th. So expect a report on like June 8th or 9th from us about what we saw and whether or not we're buying in completely to WNBA basketball. But I'm going to start following over the next couple of weeks and we're going to report back.
That we will. All right.
All right. Well, before we get out of here today, I got a little bit of a sad news to pass along, and I wanted to do a little bit of a mini eulogy here on the Kanika Sports Show because last night it came across my news feed that George Wendt, whom everyone on God's green earth knows played Norm on Cheers, had passed away. And as you can see here on the slide that I've prepared, born in 1948 and died in 2025. But I made a post last night to some of my colleagues and friends on social media that while the world may remember George Wendt as playing Norm on Cheers, I will always remember him first and foremost as Bob Swerski, brother of Bill, the host of Bill Swerski's Superfans. And yes, that is a joke, but this is, of course, Da Bears, Da Bulls, Da Sketch from SNL, the original that started it all. And there's a great story you should go check out. In fact, he was just on Rich Eisen, Joe Mantegna, the Chicago actor. He is the originator of this skit for Saturday Night Live, and George Wendt wasn't a part of it. But the skit was so successful when they first aired it that 2 weeks later when George Wendt hosted, they said, hey, we're going to resurrect the Superfans and we're going to have you be Bill's brother, Bob Swerski, filling in for him because he had a heart attack. And this is where the whole Chicago SNL skit, heart attack, all this stuff was happening. The Bulls, the Bears.
The Bears.
Exactly. There he is. That was George Wendt himself. And we will always keep that soundbite here on the Kanika Sports Show in memory now of George Wendt. And yeah, a big part of my childhood. This whole sketch, I cannot tell you how many conversations that I've had in my life with my friends just embellishing this accent. And I mean, I wrote emails in Chicago wording to friends and back and forth, like with obvious misspelled words that were all phonetic, made to be written how they sound. Like, for example, when we said Da Bears, we always put 3 S's on the end, like, because they hold it out so long. Bears. So, I will always remember George Wendt as being Bob Swerski, and I'm thinking about him today. I'm thinking about the Bears and how they need to they need to kick it up a notch for George Wendt this year, and I think they should maybe put a Bob Swerski patch on their jerseys this year. Nika, what do you think?
Okay,
a BS patch for Bob Swerski and the
Well,
Bears.
very, yeah, no.
That's an SNL joke. It's fitting.
It is. Maybe they will. Maybe one day they should have it.
Indeed.
That would be fun.
It would. I don't know. I'm sure they won't do this, but I think
Probably
it would
not.
be fun.
All right.
All right. Well, R.I.P. George Wendt and Bob Swerski, the Superfans. If you have never heard the story about how the Superfans skit came into existence, go check it out on Rich Eisen's YouTube channel. You can find the Joe Mantegna interview somewhere in there from the past week. I'm pretty sure. But outside of that, that's about all the time we got on this episode of the Kanika Sports Show. Nika, do you have anything to add for our listeners today?
No. We did great.
All right. Well,
we hit all the points we were supposed to.
Yes,
so.
we did. We got it, and we will be posting these videos shortly. Audio will be going up as well. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and thank you for all the support. If you remember, please drop us a like. Please subscribe, and please tell a friend. It's the best thing you can do. Yes, tell them to subscribe. Please. Don't forget the call to action.
We're trying to get more subscribers.
Honestly, tell them to click on a video and I'd be happy at this point.
Well, that too. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day, and we will see you again tomorrow, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.